Hello and welcome to episode 413 of the Stacey West podcast. I've been absent for a few weeks, so you may not remember me, but once upon a time I was one of the lead presenters on this podcast, and my name is Gary. Joining me tonight, he's never been away, he's never off your screens, he's never out of your ears. It's Chris Lamming. How are you?
Hello. Welcome back, mate. Welcome back. Good to have you back. I'm okay. I've had a frustrating day, Gary.
Oh dear. Why?
Yes. Well, for listeners who watched our YouTube midweek special thing, international break special, will have known that I was moaning about being poorly, and also we had 3 house viewings booked for this weekend. Someone was coming to view our house on Friday, on Saturday, and also today. Since then, I've got a bit better, but still not been 100%. Steph is now poorly. So it's not gone too well. And then today we were waiting around all afternoon for someone to come and view our house, and didn't show up, and it really annoyed me. So we hung around all day. The one day I started to feel okay, hung around all day, and they didn't want to come around. So yeah, that pissed me off a little bit actually, but apart from that, I'm really well. How are you?
Yeah, I mean, I went and had to clear out Dad's caravan today and had people come and offering me condolences, but, you know, I didn't have to wait in for a couple of hours at home. So,
Exactly.
sorry, that's really
unfair.
That's really unfair. No, do you know what? It has been tough. And I'll be honest about it. On Friday, I went to the funeral home to say last goodbyes. I've never seen a body before, so that wasn't particularly enjoyable. Obviously, today, partly cleaning out his caravan. Tomorrow got to go and register the death. So it's I'm trying to think what else has happened. I've had COVID. That was pretty bad as well. So yeah, it's all been a bit rubbish, really. But you know, on the plus side, I have discovered a new video game that I'm quite enjoying, Far Cry 6. And it's ironic because it was bought for me for Christmas by Gemma and Frenchie before they even split up. So I've had it 5 years, I think, or 4 years, never played it. And on Saturday, I was just going to have a day sitting down, trying to do nothing. Stuck this new game in, and bosh, yeah, kind of enjoying it a little bit. So something to take my mind off. I've got to make a decision next weekend whether to watch Lincoln and Stevenage or go and see the King Blues in Norwich. And I think Stevenage is going to win. I think it's probably good just to stay around there a little bit. So
I think it threatens to be a brilliant game full of blood and thunder and goal-mouth action both ends, or probably 0-0.
Like it was 1-0, wasn't it? Was it? No, it was 0-0 at Christmas, wasn't it? It was.
Yes.
Was it 0-0? It was. It was a draw. It was 0-0, I think. It was 0-0 the year before because it was the one where I said that's cost us our playoff place, and it didn't. That was with Evans, wasn't it? Or was it 1-1? Was it 0-0 and McCarman missed, and then we lost 1-0 to Rotherham. They were in really quick succession, I think. So yeah, there we go. You're just checking, aren't you, as well?
I tried. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
Let's just assume I'm right, and we'll just move on because I think that's probably the best thing. Before we get into business, just like to say a massive congratulations to Jack Mulhall, who completed a marathon in Chicago today, and I understand also got a personal best, and he was quite eager to find out who was doing the podcast and was incredibly disappointed to find out that it wasn't me. He'll be even more annoyed to find out that I'm doing the one immediately after he finishes. So yeah, fair play. I went for a run yesterday as well, Chris.
And how did that go?
Well, it was my first one since Equinox. So yeah, it was a very, very slow 5K. Ached a lot yesterday, but it's good to get back out. I've got to get back on it and get back feeling fit again. When we talk about fitness, one player for Lincoln City that may be lacking match fitness up until yesterday is Jamie Pardington. Whew, I haven't lost it. I might have been away, but I haven't lost it. He joined AFC Telford on a month's loan yesterday. Made his debut, as I understand, in the FA Cup against Darlington. Kept a clean sheet as they scored 6. Not really a surprise that Mr. Pardington has gone out on loan.
No, not at all. Not at all. Good for him to go and get some games. It sounds like he's a good character around the ground. But yeah, everyone wants to play football, don't they? And with him not even been named in the senior squad this season for league games, his only opportunity to get games for us, I think, would be in cups and in the trophy, wouldn't it? So, and Zach Geacock plays in the cups. So, yeah, he's going to get game time. It's going to be quite hard to come by. Good to see him going out and getting some.
I think game time will be hard to come by at Telford. He was actually called up because their keeper, Josh Gracie, was away on international duty with Northern Ireland under-19s. So whether he will now keep the under-19 keeper out of the side or not remains to be seen. But you see, I have this perception of Jamie Partington of being a young keeper, but he's 25, isn't he? And I wonder, I mean, you're a keeper, or you are a keeper at Raisin, and you were back in the day as well. Do you think there's going to be a point in his career, 26, 27, where he's going to go, do you know what, rather than sitting on the bench here not playing, I need to drop down, or I need to just go out and play games and secure a move and be a number one?
Yeah, that'll happen at some point, undoubtedly. What age that is, who knows? I think there's a big difference with Jamie, particularly at the level he's playing at the moment. It's because he's clearly capable of playing national north-south, because he had a loan there before. And the majority of clubs at that level, though, are, of course, part-time. There are some full-time clubs. So it's not, if he drops down to the level where he is likely to be a number one, it's a complete shift away from professional football. And hey, he could impress. He could have a good season or two, come back into the league. But it's tough, isn't it, to do that? So it's not just a case of having a bit of an ego, trying to be part of a club as high as you can, and maybe in hindsight should have played a little bit lower and played week in, week out. Like I have to say, I probably would like to look back and tell myself to do something like that. But it was never a decision between professional football and semi-professional football. So it's a big decision for him at some point. But I imagine he will want to play. Every professional footballer wants to play football. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I really hope that Jamie, if and when he leaves the football club at some point in the future and does decide to go and get first team football somewhere, it's a professional football club. And if he can continue that, the career that he started out upon, then there's not going to be too much change for him. But if he has to drop down into the part-time game, it's quite a big change, isn't it?
I think it's worth pointing out that Alex Palmer was on loan at Kidderminster twice, Oldham, Notts County, before he started getting regular football in 2019 on a loan to Plymouth Argyle. And in 2019, he was only 23. So he's only a year or two ahead of Jamie Partington in terms of age. And he's gone on to play Premier League football. So even if Jamie's ultimate aim is to play League One, League Two, later in the career happens. And Paul Farman obviously became a Football League keeper much later on in his career. And now look at him. He's a third choice at Swansea. He's played his Football League career and he's happy to go there and be back up and etc. So, yeah, it will be interesting. Do you know what else is going to be interesting, Chris?
Go on.
The next hour on the Stacey West podcast. So, listeners at home, people watching in live, what we did earlier today was put a call out for questions. We did it on Twitter as well as on the Discord. So it's not just Patreon questions, it's questions from the general Imps fan base as well. But Chris and I haven't seen them. I mean, it's not been hard to stay off Twitter most of the day. I did actually drop on very briefly, but didn't check any of my notifications. So don't know about any of the questions. They're all queued up. We've got Charlie in the green room. He is going to drop the questions on the screen. For those of you at home, I will then read the question out. So if you're watching, it will be painful. It'll be like somebody reading the subtitles back to you. And then we will answer the question. And we'll probably take it in turns to start. So I'll read a question. You take the first question. I take the second question. What do you reckon?
Sounds like a plan. I would just like to say, I feel so ill-prepared. This is the first time I think I've ever done a podcast without any notes in front of me. I'm a bit scared about what's going to come up, to be honest.
I mean, I never do notes anyway, but this is gut instinct, isn't it? This is a real knowledge tester. And given the fact that you were able to name a Lincoln City goalkeeper from 25 years ago purely by 3 of his clubs just while we were off air, I don't think you're going to have any problem at all. So it's going to be interesting. So shall we get Charlie to roll? We've got 28 questions, by the way, so we're going to not quick fire, but we're not going to go too deep into some of them. Some of them are quick fire at the end. Let's get Charlie to roll the first question. All of the following players are believed to be out of contract at the end of this season. With each player, you will either A, renew, B, look to sell in January, or C, release in the summer. Ooh, okay.
It's horrible already.
Wow, what an awful question. Right, well, it's not, is it? It's people want opinions. So let's have player number 1. Chris, over to you first.
New deal.
I think a lot will depend on the player as to whether he wishes to stay or not. He will have been with us 3 years. He's from the South. He played a majority of his football in the South with Charlton and with Portsmouth and with Bromley, I believe. Getting to the stage of the career now where players in League One and League Two look beyond football. So I am going to say that is something that would be player led. But my answer would be I would renew. I like Rico Hackett. There we
Good.
go.
By the way, did you notice my answer was
quick? Yeah, I know, and I dragged mine out, didn't I?
It did.
The next player is Ben House. Renew.
100% renew. I think Ben has grown into a slightly different role this season, but his attributes are just so unique and so valuable, particularly in the style that we have. So I think it's a no-brainer on current form for Ben House. I know there was a few question marks maybe going into last season before his 1-year extension, but yeah, for me, I know you love the saying, but it really is an absolute no-brainer to renew Ben House.
The reason I say Ben House is there are not very many players with his profile, the way that he plays, where he plays on the field, how flexible he can be, because he can play a little bit deeper in midfield. He can play as the 9, so he gives you cover. But at the same time, I really like the idea of him pressing hard. He's a player for you. People say horses for courses. And there are some games where you just know in the 10 role, we need him over a creator. We need a workhorse over a creator. So for me, yeah, renew all day long. I think the window for selling him for big money to the Championship has passed.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. I think his value is on the pitch, and he's a very, very, very valuable player for us. Side note, because of his versatility and how he's played in so many positions already this season for us, editing his positions on the Football Manager database for the upcoming game has been an absolute flipping nightmare to make him not be like the best player in the world because of his versatility. So, yeah, that took some tinkering, I have to say. It's versatility 20 out of 20, I think.
Right, Charlie, player number 3. It's spelled wrongly for a start. It's only one N. Conor McGrandles is player number 3. Chris, you first.
Renew again. And I don't want this just. I know there's not a lot of opinion. It's just be nice to all the players we've got, isn't it? But we have been waxing lyrical about Conor McGrandles since the beginning of this season, and have retrospectively changed our opinion upon last season in hindsight, haven't we? So he's almost irreplaceable at the moment. I know we've got a long-term successor in the building in Ivan, but Conor is a really experienced head now, isn't he? And he's very, very dependable, offers such calmness in there. And to be honest, offers a lot of calmness in a very, very frantic midfield and front few players because of how intense we are. Yeah, you have to offer Conor McGrandles a new deal. Maybe a couple of years.
I think these questions there's also a degree of recency bias in the answers. So, if we'd lost 3 or 4 games on the bounce or something like that, we might be going, we need to freshen things up. But, we were 4th into the table going into international break. We've come out of it 6th in the table with teams obviously overtaking us, people with games in hand and stuff like that. So, I'm obviously going to say renew. I did an article this morning, 6 of the most underrated players of the EFL era, and I picked Conor McGrandles out straight away. Stacey West Reed is named him Player of the Year in 2020-21, and there's no reason he hasn't changed as a player. If anything, he's industrious, hardworking, functional, and they're not sexy words for footballers, but he just does everything right. And I think. I don't think he's emerged from Ethan Arahan's shadow. I just think we now see him because we're not looking at Ethan Arahan, if that makes sense. And do you know what? This is going to sound really... people might shoot me down here for a slightly... I don't know if there's a racial element to what I'm going to say. But when I'm watching a game, I find it really hard to differentiate just between 6 foot white guys on the field. So sometimes in the middle of the park, if McGrandles is on the ball or if Bayliss is on the ball, and you sometimes don't see it. Whereas players who maybe kind of stand out a little bit because they're a different profile, whether that's do you know what I mean? Whether it's their hairstyle, whether it's their skin tone, you see what they do more because they stand out more. Does that make sense? Or is that just horribly racist?
No, it's not. I don't think so. I think you've been honest there. Like we're not on the pitch, are we? We're sitting quite a long way away. Often we're not the best eyesight, some of us. You can't always tell players apart. I think, is it Oscar Thon and Eric Ring when they were both playing in the trophy game? They look. I got them mixed up a couple of times. Just
Rob Street, identical. JJ McKiernan, not all that different.
And Dom Jeffries and Jack Moylan on the same pitch is always a bit difficult to tell, isn't it? Sometimes.
And that's what I mean. Middle of the park now. The midfield works. Is it McGrandles doing it? Is it Bayliss doing it? Sometimes from distance, your eyesight's not phenomenal. Whereas when it was McGrandles and Darahan, you can tell the difference purely because of the way that they look. It's not a racial thing. So sometimes I'm looking up top and it's like, who's done that? Is it Ben House? Is it Rob Street? Just because, from a distance. And sometimes the numbers aren't easy to see. Anyway, there we go. Are there any more
on the list? Or is it just those three?
Yes, there are. Yeah. No, there's 5 altogether.
Okay. Cool.
So the next one on the list is Adam Reach. It's hard to make a decision on this because we haven't seen enough of him. What I will say is there isn't any chance of selling. We won't sell him in January. Nobody's gonna buy Adam Reach. So it all depends really, I think, on fitness and that sort of thing through to the end of the season and what targets we may land or may not land in January as to whether we renew Adam Reach or not. At some point, these older players that we have, we're not going to renew. We're going to have to make a decision. We can't, you can't renew a 35-year-old 3 years in a row because they kind of passed that point. Be unfair to judge Adam Reach at the moment because we've only seen him for 5 or 6 games or whatever. So I'm going to sit on the fence on that one and say I'm going to plead the fifth or whatever.
Yeah, it's different. I kind of want to be controversial a little bit and say something outlandish just for opinion because this is not going to be a very, very enjoyable podcast. But I have to agree with you. Like, it's impossible to decide this after 5 or 6 games. I really like what he's brought to the squad. I think his delivery, his calmness, and his decision-making in possession is really, really good. We've got a much more defensive-minded left-back in Riley Towler, who we expect to see more as a centre-back, I think, towards the next 2 or 3 seasons. And we're very, very heavily linked, of course, with Mr. Honohan at Shamrock Rovers during the summer. So I imagine we'll still be looking at bringing in a really athletic left back that can kind of bomb up and down because you've got Towler, who's kind of a centre back, can play left back, can play left of the 3 in our kind of 2 different systems. You've got Reach, who is really good delivery, right place, right time, can drift into centre midfield. Is rarely going to get on the overlap, I don't think. I don't think he's got the legs for that anymore, but picks his moments well. If you just need legs, that's probably what we haven't got. So I don't think signing another left back means that Adam Reach is no longer required. I think he has a skill set that's important. So for me, that would mean, providing he stays fit for the rest of this season, another 1 year makes total sense because of his on-ball quality, even if we sign someone else.
So slight different answer, only because I refuse to commit and you have gone in a little bit deeper and given listeners what they want, which is analysis rather than just going, don't know, let's see, which is what I said. And the last one, James Collins. Well, I am not going to sit on the fence here, but I'll pass it over to you first.
Okay, so I really like James Collins. However, I feel that we have succession planned here pretty well. I think we've got Freddie Draper waiting in the wings to play in that role and Rob Street. And I imagine long-term, we're expecting Freddie Draper and Rob Street to have a pretty honest battle between who is our starting number 9. And again, it might be a little bit horses for courses in regards to opponent and skill set, whether we want an in-behind runner or we want someone to play back to goal. Because Fred's been dropping into 10 and done well, but I don't think that's his long-term position. Rob's done really well on the right, particularly kind of becoming a second striker at time when he cuts inside, running in behind. But I don't think that's his long-term position. He deserves to be in the team, which is why he's playing out there. Again, it depends. If James has scored 20 goals this season, he's got another year option. You're not gonna say no to have that in the squad. But I think of all the positions on the pitch, this is probably where we've succession planned. You can see the players in the building already. So, yeah, I'm not going to say we're definitely not going to offer him. But I think of all of the players that we've listed so far, Rico, for the reasons you've mentioned, and probably Collins are the ones that there are most question marks over now. And that's not because I don't want him to be part of the team or because he's not been effective. Age does become a factor a year down the line, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm going to go the other way. I say you keep James Collins. You look at the likes of Billy Sharp, for instance, who just year after year after year, turns up, scores goals, even if he's not a starter. I suppose it depends a little bit on finances and how much he costs in comparison, and do you offset that against age? But for me, even at what is he, 34, James Collins now, the way he looks at the moment, like he ain't going to get any slower than he is now. And that said, he's not blessed with pace. You ain't going to be drop off that much. I don't think there'd be a huge change from where he is now to certainly a year down the line, if not 2 years. And I just think he's the type of player that you want in the squad. But to caveat all of these choices, as Flossy Tops has pointed out in the comments, if the unthinkable happens and we reach the championship, our player profile will possibly outweigh all of the players mentioned. And when I think about it, if we were to go up and you're asking me the same questions, Rico Hackett in the championship, probably not. Ben House in the championship, yes, still, I think, because of his hard work. Adam Reach in the championship, maybe not. James Collins, probably keep him around the squad because financially it would be easier. You could still do so. And I can't remember. Conor McGrandles, I'm not sure. So everything changes if we go up, doesn't it, basically?
Yeah, and to be honest, opinion will change if you ask us this question every month because of recency bias and how our form on the pitch is and how the players are performing, because they'll all go in and out of form. And I think maybe that's probably the biggest credit to Conor McGrandles, actually, is that he's the most consistent out of all of them, I would say. Yeah. So that we've seen so far, there's a couple of caveats to those that we haven't seen too much of, but yeah, I think the rest of them have been hot and cold at times. When they're hot, they're good, but have had cold moments where Conor's just been pretty steady all the way through, hasn't he?
Yeah. There we go. So that's question number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 done and dusted. Charlie, roll question number 6.
Your player of the season so far and most improved player so far.
Well, I will name my player of the season so far, and we don't need to go into it too much because we've just discussed it, is Conor McGrandles.
100% agree. Yep, for all the reasons we've just said. Most improved player. I'm guessing this is kind of most improved this season compared to last season. I'm assuming that's kind of what this is referring to. For me, it's George Wickens. To be honest, I think it's not even necessarily most improved this season. Since he had his injury last season, has spelled out the team, came back, looked like a different player, looked really confident and really imposing. And I think he's been outstanding at the start of this season. I really do. I think of all the players in our squad currently, who is most likely to get attention in January, it's probably him.
Well, in the words of Meatloaf, you took the words right out of my mouth. Actually, I'm not going to sing the next line. However, I will make a change on the fly, and I will say Freddie Draper. And I think it's been visible. I think Draper's always had the ability. I think he's always tried to do the things he's doing this season. But potentially last season, I thought that his bulk was part of his game. I thought he was moving towards that kind of Matt Reed pivot, hit him, doesn't need to do an awful lot of running because he was, by his own admission, he was quite big. He's quite significantly more athletic, I think, this season. But he seems to have got a little bit smarter, and maybe that's working with James Collins. We said when he came in, working around a striker like Collins, would he learn a little bit more about using his body, using his weight? He doesn't, and again, I'll stand corrected on my scout maybe at the end of this podcast. In fact, I'll make a note of it. But he doesn't seem to be giving as many free kicks away. He seems to have won 1 or 2 more himself. I just think he's beginning to develop into the player that I know Michael Appleton thought that he was going to be 4 seasons ago.
Yeah, I have to say, last season was the first time I started to think have I backed him
Back the wrong
more
horse.
than I should have, because I've really defended Fred ever since he broke into the team, because I really thought he had a relatively unique skill set, and I thought he could develop. And then last season he did struggle a bit, didn't he? And you're right. I think this season he's a lot smarter than he was. Lost a little bit of timber, a lot more trim. Still just as strong, by the way, but more athletic. Can get around more fitter, clearly more capable of playing 90 minutes when required. But the big difference, absolutely right, it just doesn't give away as many fouls, and that I think shouldn't be overlooked, because if you're at the other end of the pitch and you're putting pressure on a back line, it's just a get out of jail free card for the opposition if you give a cheap foul away. If you can keep the pressure on, and that's how you score goals, is by just keep trying to blow the door down effectively, and not giving silly free kicks away, being able to use your composure and to make some good decisions in those kind of fiery moments. I think that has a big impact on the outcome of a game, or can do. And Fred has significantly improved in that. So yeah, I think Fred and George are probably the two big names. I would still like to say there's potential for Eric Ring to do the same this season if he gets a run in the team, but hasn't quite had the start of the season just yet.
So actually, he's giving more wet fouls away per 90 minutes
Bollocks, is he?
than he was last season in League One. Yeah, 3.41 fouls he's been giving away. Although, to be fair, those numbers are skewed by it being a smaller sample size. So, for instance, against Plymouth Argyle, he gave away 6, and against Luton, he gave away 4. But on average, he is giving away 2 and 1, whereas last season in League One, it was 3.3. But again, yeah, on average, 2 and 1. But the outlier there is the 6 from Plymouth. So that's what you get when you don't research and just take questions on the hop. We're talking about the eye test. Andy Pearson, if he's listening, will love this, because we're blinded from the stats. So I do think it's interesting, though. I think it's interesting to get that eye test.
Agreed.
Against the
totally
stats.
agree. Totally agree. And what I would say with Fred is we don't know the stats, but I would love to see where on the pitch and what situations are those fouls that he's given away this season compared to last. I haven't seen this, obviously, but my assumption would be there'll be fewer of those where you think, oh, bloody hell, Fred, you're going too hard there. You've given them a chance to get out of jail free there. That just doesn't feel like that's happened as often this season, whereas it did a few times last.
Bearing in mind 7 of the last 9 games from last season, he came on as a sub, and that was his fouls per 90, whereas for the last 3 or 4 he's been kind of starting and coming on as well. So yeah, so there we go. That's player of the season and most improved player so far, Mr. Beeston. Next question, please. Considering ESC regulations, what do you think are Eric Ring's future prospects if he can't force his way into becoming a regular starter? May I pick this up?
Of course.
I think that Eric Ring has a solid future still at the football club. I think he's incredibly focused on getting himself into the side. And I think what he brings in terms of competition, it would be hard to go out and get somebody else from the UK who works within the ESC regulations to do exactly the same job. We bring players in as long-term projects. We don't bring them in as short-term. So the fact that Eric Ring is 18 months, not even that, maybe just over a year, 14 months in, I think we have backed him. I think we have backed even Varfolomiev. And I think that Eric Ring's future prospects are still in Eric Ring's hands. I do think conversations that I've had, he still has to, I think he's getting to grips with the physicality of the English game. I don't think there's an issue with the way that he'll beat players, deliver the ball, set piece delivery, that sort of thing. I think it's purely the physicality of the English game. But I think his future prospects, and you've just alluded to it in terms of most improved player, I think that it's still a big place for him at this football club. Agreed.
Caveat, though, is, and I can't remember the actual numbers. Again, this would be lovely if we could do some research beforehand. You might know the answer to this, though. In order to, because we have 2 players that take up our ESC slots at the moment in Ring and Varfolomiev, and we are allowed 2. So they're both filled now. So that does restrict us now for the next 3 seasons until Eric's contract is up, from signing another player from overseas that would not normally receive a work permit, unless one of them plays a certain number of minutes or percentage of available minutes. Do you know what the percentage is. I think it's 70%, but I can't remember.
To convert, that is a really good question. I think it's the same. Let me you talk and I will look it up.
Because my thought here is I think we certainly want to try and find value in those sort of markets. You know, we've got a bit of money because we're on transfer fees now. However, we still have a very strict wage budget, and shopping overseas for the likes of Eric Ring, for the likes of Ivan Varfolomeev, I still think we're going to keep our toes in the water for that a little bit, because there's clearly value there. However, we're restricted at the moment from signing another player from overseas due to those ESC restrictions. Now, if one of Ivan or Eric play a certain percentage of minutes, they can then convert into a regular squad member and no longer take up one of those ESC slots.
60%.
60% of league minutes, is it?
60% of the minutes of the games that they are available for.
Okay, cool. So feasibly then, you can see maybe Ivan towards, because he's still learning the ropes a little bit. He got his first league start. He could certainly play up to 60% of his available minutes. Eric could. It's not. I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility that one of our ESC slots will become available again. Also, if we get promoted to the championship, big if, but if we do, we get more slots. So, but I think if neither of them are played up to 60% and we no longer then are able to shop in that market, you never know. There might be a caveat there. There might be a question mark. But he's got a 4-year deal for a reason. That's because we believe in his development.
Yeah, there we go. 30 minutes in and we've only done a quarter of the questions.
Oh, we're best quick it up a little then. Okay.
Yeah, we ought to get. So next up, where do we feel we need to strengthen in January, or is it a case of covering off interest? Oh, fighting off interest, I assume that means in our players. Chris?
Always want to strengthen. Always want to strengthen. You only get 2 opportunities every year to improve your squad. It seems silly not to try and take one of those opportunities when they're there. So depends where we are in the league. If we are within a shout of getting in the playoffs, you want to have as much strength as possible. There are going to be people interested in our players as well. But to be honest, I fully back the recruitment team to have plans in place for if we're adding to what we currently have, or if we need to replace. But it would be not catastrophic, but it'd be disappointing for us to be decimated in January, wouldn't it?
As things stand, I don't believe that we need to strengthen in January for the purposes of this season. That's as things stand. Dom Jeffries coming in, Jack Moylan to come back. I think if we got to January with this squad as it is now, and then we exited January with this squad for this season, in context alone, it would be okay. Strengthening in January can be with one eye on next season. Absolutely. And I always point to Tom Pett. We brought Tom Pett in the winter window of 2017-18. He had very little impact in the 6 months after coming in. He scored the goal against Yeovil that sent us to the playoffs, but did very little. Next season, he was pivotal. So I think our strengthening in January is with one eye on next season. The question there is, where will we be? If we're second in the table, we're looking at January, we may not be as quick to sign players for the following season because we don't know where we'll be. My gut feeling is that we will bring in a left back, but I don't want to go into that too much because we don't know what's happening. But I wouldn't be surprised if we get to January and we bring one in and then replace people that go. So Dexter Lembakis is only on loan until January. If he goes, we may look to bring cover in there. And again, injury-wise as well. So, yeah. That's that question done and dusted. Next question.
Are we light in midfield this season? And did we struggle against Exeter because we didn't have McGrandles?
Well, we're not light in midfield. I don't think at all. Even Varfolomeev, Conor McGrandles, and Tom Bayliss. The reason
Barbrook in there as well is
Finn Barbrook
required.
The reason I think this question is being asked is because we have cancelled the game this weekend, potentially because we would have lost McGrandles and we would have lost Varfolomeev. So that's probably the basis of this. But I just think that I think we believe we've got a serious chance of finishing in the top 6 at club level. Supporters will always say we have, or we'll try and play it down, we'll do whatever. But I think internally, the club are looking at this and thinking, do you know what? We've got a good squad. it's not the weakest division, but there are no massive hitters. Like you might say Cardiff, but we've played in recent seasons Birmingham, Ipswich, Sunderland, teams where people are going, God, we haven't played them since 1962 or 19 whatever. Whereas Cardiff, I remember playing Cardiff in this division when I was younger. They've only been they're a big club, but they've only been one of those unobtainable clubs recently. There's no Derby, there's no Sunderland, there's no Ipswich, there's even the teams like Portsmouth are gone. It feels a little bit like much of a muchness. Did we struggle against Exeter because we didn't have a Grandals? No, we didn't struggle against Exeter. The truth is we did against Exeter exactly what we did against Luton and what we did against Peterborough and what we did against Burton. We just didn't. The difference was we didn't convert the chances we created, and Exeter converted the one chance they created. We lost the game against Exeter, but in my opinion, we didn't struggle against Exeter.
Agreed. Yeah. There isn't really an answer to this question because I thought we were good against Exeter. The only thing that made it not good was the result. Everything else was good. And it was just football doing football things. Football has a habit of biting you on the arse when you don't take your chances. And we didn't take our chances. But getting to the box and restricting Exeter from getting it anywhere near ours, we were great at. And we didn't miss Connor, despite how brilliant he's been this season. We didn't miss him on Saturday. And that was nothing to do with the reason that we lost the game, in my opinion. So short answer, no, not light in midfield.
Can I just say as well, somebody said, it was on the Not the Top 20 podcast about Kevin McDonald, who had a kidney transplant. So the guy that scored Exeter's goal had a kidney transplant mid-career. So while we're looking at it going, oh, we've lost to Exeter, we've done this, we've done that. What a great story for them is this 36-year-old kidney transplant 4 or 5 years ago, comes on against them, been written off by loads of people, bangs in the goal. I mean, it's horrible to be on the end of it, but, sometimes the story isn't you. Sometimes the story is the opponent. And I think against Exeter, that was the case. Charlie, we're just going to take a quick break for half time and have a look at some comments, and then we will come back in. Sorry, I just noticed it's 37:10. So people were going to be really quick at saying hello to everybody.
Hello,
so David Larder says that's a nice surprise. I thought it was an hour late and I'm 5 minutes early. David Ward says, good evening from a dry Hebden Moor. Weekend break felt right for me. Well, congratulations to Michael. 50 years ago this week, Graham Taylor won Manager of the Month for September in the 1975-76 season, and he went on to win the title. Stu says it's going to be a good one. I hope we're living up to it. Ian says, evening all. He misses football. Don't worry, Ian. Fret not. It's coming back. Andy says, good evening. Neil Flower says, good evening. Flossie, we've already spoke to, says, good evening. And she says, it's good to see me back. Thank you very much. Leslie says, good evening. Hope you're doing okay, guys. Thank you. I'm doing as well as I can. Who else have we got? I'm skipping through people's comments if I've already spoken to you. Hello to Harry. Hello to Ollie, and hello to Gaz. Evening all. Kate says, evening all. Insert generic hello, how are you message here. Peace out. Peace out, Kate. And John is on as well. Good evening to John. Right, let's get straight back into the thick of things. Welcome back to the Stacey West podcast. This is part 2. Let's get straight into it. Charlie, can we have another question? Go on, Chris, you read it.
Which player coming through the youth system in recent years that didn't make the grade do you think should have done better and established themselves in the squad?
It's a hard one to answer because we haven't seen the players coming through the youth system that didn't make the grade. But I do have one in mind, and that is Jordan Adebayo-Smith. He's making a little bit of a career for himself in America. I thought that he had the sort of profile, he seemed quite quick, he seemed quite pacey, looked quite direct. So I liked the look of him. I remember seeing him in the game against Derby, I think it was, in a friendly when he first kind of came in and impressed. So he was the one that I thought I felt maybe could have done better.
Interesting. I don't know if this is a direct answer to this question, but it's just reminded me of something in Oisin Gallagher. I just think there's something interesting about Oisin. Been super unlucky with injuries, of course, and he's at the point now. I think he's 20 now, isn't he? Maybe even 21, but never really broken in anywhere due to the injuries. I know that he's really highly regarded within the club. It's interesting to see what happens with him, doesn't it? Because if he manages to have a really good loan in the second half of this season potentially, you never know. You never know what might happen there. But also, if the time does run out on him, his career here, he might be one that goes and does well elsewhere. Who knows?
Alicia Huey was one that I liked the look of as well. But it's easy to watch one game against Newcastle under 21s. Not watching enough youth football, it would be nice to kind of pick somebody like was it Brendan Adamson or
Bailey Adamson?
Yeah. He looked like, but that's purely just from going. Well, he scored 3 goals for the under 18s, so it's particularly tough, I think, to give a definitive answer to that. So, but we've done our best, as we always do. Charlie, who is your ideal and worst possible FA Cup first round opponent? Go on, Chris. I'll let you roll with that first.
Oh, ideal. There's 2 ways looking at this, isn't there? Like, do you want a fun game that's going to get everyone interested, or do you just want, at least on paper, the easiest possible route to the next round? Because I'm thinking I'd quite like Grimsby at home. I think it'd be great fun, unless we lose, and then it wouldn't be fun at all. So I'm gonna say Peterborough at home because it's a guaranteed win.
Well, my ideal opponent is Scunthorpe United at home, because it would be really nice to give them a proper kick in, and I think that it would be possible. The tie I would really like, and I can't say I would actually go to it, but it's just fun. I'd love Truro. I've just got this thing about Truro. And they're not doing particularly well. And I know that it'll be a long old journey down there. And nobody wants to go down to Cornwall in November. They all want to go down in August or whatever. But there's just part of me that goes, you know what? I'd love to do that. I'd love for us to say I have been to the most furthest southeasterly club or westerly club we could possibly go to.
Yeah, I get that. I've been looking out for the results every week since they've been in the National League, because it's just such a unique situation. Really like it.
And they're not doing very well at all, really, are they? They're really struggling. And worst possible FA Cup first round opponent?
It's just like away at a really tough place. So who's away at Stevenage or something like that? Yeah.
Basically away against any team in League One. And away at a team running away with League Two as well. So, yeah. There we go. That's that question answered.
Bradford away would be quite fun because it'd be on a Saturday at least.
Yeah, that'd keep people happy, wouldn't it? And then it gets moved for TV. So another question. Will Michael Skubala last another year with us? Well, I'm sincerely hoping that hasn't come from James Christopher asking when he can go. I'm sincerely hoping that is, will we be able to hang on to him for another year? Because Luton, Blackpool, both getting rid of their managers. They're linked with Ian Evatt. They're linked with Richie Wellens. I think Jack Wilshere is now the main Luton man. Liam Richardson is the Blackpool man. I think we're lucky, because I think there are an awful lot of half-decent managers have moved up, been given the boot from the Championship and don't have a job. Or in this division, they're good. I mean, Richie Wellens is catching everybody's eye. Obviously, he's doing well. Barry Murphy's doing well. Alex Revel. It's not going to be long before people look at him. He's maybe tainted with the Ainsworth virus in that what he does, but there are going to be clubs who are going to go, I don't care what he gets out of his team. I'm not having that style of football at my club. And so, he may be tainted with that, but he's doing a good job. I think Michael Skubala is our manager in 12 months' time, bar anything major.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. I think he will be here. He certainly won't be sacked. If he's not here, it'll be because he's had I don't think he'd go to any other team in the Championship. Genuinely. Not that, I'm sure money talks and everything, just like it does for everybody. But I just feel like it's particularly as it stands right now, and it feels that we've got a genuine chance of promotion this season. Again, not expecting it, but it's our best chance for a little while, I think. I don't think it would be sensible to leave mid-season. However, this time next season, or next summer, should I say, if a Championship club comes calling and we haven't got ourselves there, then I don't think we could stand in his way. But I think he'll be here.
Now, this is interesting. I saw a debate on Discord before we asked for the question about this, and it's kind of a follow-up question. Do you think Skubala's perceived style of play will put off potential suitors once he's taken us to the Championship, which I really like, that once he's taken us to the Championship? Well, first of all, Nottingham Forest fans are keen for Sean Dyche. So, and Everton took Sean Dyche, and we know he really made his name by playing kind of like an anti-football almost with Burnley. I'm saying off the top of my head that I'm doubting myself that Sean Dyche was ever Burnley manager, which is ridiculous. I'm not so sure, because I think football is changing. I think overall clubs are looking for something different. I think 10 years ago they were looking for a Michael Appleton, hold the ball, play out from the back, and you can look at the likes of Luke Williams, who did it really well, and Russell Martin did it at MK Dons. Those managers were in vogue. Whereas actually now there are managers that perhaps don't do that, and the unfashionable managers are the ones that I think are doing relatively well. And I look at Alex Neil, for instance, at Millwall. He was at Preston. They're not free-flowing football side particularly. Matt Bloomfield was taken from Wycombe to Luton, so I'm not sure. I think that style of football makes it very hard to go from Championship to Premier League. I think what's the success in the Championship is probably changing a little bit, and that's it's probably partly to do with the chasm between clubs on parachute payments and clubs having to eke out an existence with a slightly smaller budget. So it will put off some potential suitors, but then there are others that will look at his success rate and what he gets out of his pounds per point or points per pound or whatever, and they'll go, we'll have some of that.
I'm gonna say one word: Bournemouth, because Bournemouth
like two.
Manager Andoni Iraola is probably the most sought after manager at the moment, and there are question marks over whether his ability to go manage at a top club, but he is the name on everyone's lips. People are talking about how Bournemouth play. They're breaking them down tactically, and it's really interesting. But what are they? They're super high pressing. And they play over a press the majority of the time. They're quite direct at times. They're very, very, very athletic. They're adaptable. That sounds quite familiar, doesn't it? And I'm not saying for a second we are as good at football as Bournemouth are, but stylistically, I would say our style is more similar to Bournemouth than any other team in England at the moment. So, again, not saying it's as good, not saying it's as polished or as technical, but I think if you're comparing us to any other team, like an elite team, like who we most like, who are we trying to replicate, it's kind of them in lots of measurable ways. And if it's been successful at that level, I imagine some Championship clubs are going to be quite happy with that as well.
Fair enough. I also think very quickly his perceived style of play is only how we're doing things now because of what's available. Bear in mind he was at Leeds under 21s and they didn't play anti-possession
Michael's very adaptable.
Yeah,
and also you look at the possession stats this season, but you kind of forget that for something like 70% of the time we've been ahead in games. So we've let the opposition the numbers are skewed so much at the moment. I never think we're going to be the team that has 60% possession, but 38, 39 like it is now, I don't think that's an accurate representation. I would love to have access to Y-Scout sometime, by the way, and have a look at what is our possession stat up until the point it's 1-0 to us in every game. So basically, what's our possession stat at 0-0 in every game? And I bet money, not going to say how much because I haven't decided yet, but I bet money that we've got significantly more than the current average is up until the point that we score.
Go on then, Charlie. We'll have the next question.
Who would you pick as the next manager? If the answer is Tom Shaw, why him over Chris Cohen? Good question.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not having that. This is the one thing. 4-4-2. You always do the 4-4-2 preview. There's always the question there: who would you have as manager? I can't see beyond the current manager, and maybe that's short-sightedness in my point. But who would I have as current manager? I don't know, because back in Mark Kennedy, if you'd asked me during the Mark Kennedy time, I wouldn't have gone Michael Skubala because I wouldn't know. The easy thing is to pick one of our assistants, potentially. I mean, why him over Chris Cohen? Well, one, because Tom's probably somebody that wants to move into management, whereas Chris Cohen, I think, has always been an assistant and may not want. Do you know what I mean? That's one of the reasons I picked them. If it was Michael Skubala being poached, who's to say he wouldn't take Tom Shaw and Chris Cohen? So then it would be a moot point. So I find it very hard. If you were to ask me kind of what managers do I admire elsewhere in the Football League, even despite their collapse last season, I still think Matt Sadler's doing really good things at Walsall. I think he's plays a nice brand of football, not completely dissimilar in terms of formation to us. So But yeah, it would be. It's hard. It's a hard one to answer.
Yeah, I suppose what I would add to this is if we do lose Marcus Skubala and he doesn't take Tom or Chris with him, I do feel this is the most prepared we are to be able to promote from within for the next manager. I'm not saying that we definitely would do, but I think we'd be more prepared now to do that than we probably have at any other point in recent memory.
Very quickly, when we're winning, we have 34% possession in League One this season. When drawing, 49% possession
Thank you.
This season. And when losing, we have slightly more in 51. Next question, please, Mr. B. Stone. A fully fit Jack Moylan and Dom Jeffries. Who, if anyone, do they replace in the side? Chris?
Dom Jeffries is really difficult to see because I think he's a good player, but where he starts in this current team, don't know. Jack, bit more likely to see, probably in the 10 role or on the left, because Freddie and Ben House have both been playing out there at the moment. Did a good job out there, not criticising either of those. Ben, very adaptable, can play pretty much any of those three positions behind the striker and deeper if needs be. Fred, done well dropping into the 10, but certainly can see him being a number 9. Jack Mullen has a skill set that none of those players that are currently playing in the 3 behind James Collins have. And he's a great ball carrier, really good in 1v1 situations. So left wing or 10, depending on the opponent. And then if he plays well in the opportunities that he gets, he can dislodge someone and be a starter in that role, in my opinion.
I have a very particular set of skills that I've acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you. Liam Neeson, with his unique skill set, just like Jack Moylan. Let's not get carried away here by thinking that football is about the team that start the game. That's what I will say about these players. No longer is football 11v11. It's all about the 16 that can play on a match day, the 5 subs as well. And I absolutely see a fully fit Jack Moylan playing in the 10 when we need to go and break teams down. You know, let's say we get Farnham in the FA Cup at home. Jack Moylan's perfect for that over Ben House. Let's say you go away to Huddersfield. Ben House is better there than Jack Moylan, perhaps. As for Dom Jeffries, again, no idea, because he's a little bit like the Anthony Scully of past. Maybe a little bit like the Dylan Duffy, not quite as one-dimensional perhaps as Dylan, but it's the type of player that he is. Do we have that position for him at the minute? You know, he played left wing-back last season, which we don't now play. He's been a holding midfielder in the past. Potentially Finn Barbrook goes back to Ipswich. Dom Jeffries can cover there. Be interesting.
You've said the thing I was going to say.
Fair enough. So there we go. That is question number whatever. On to the next one. Where are we excelling and where do we need to improve, Chris?
Well, this is going to sound a bit reductive, but we're excelling of scoring the first goal in almost all of our games. Obviously, Exeter aside, but that's a bit of a freak result. We're starting the games so well in pretty much every measurable way. Where do we need to improve? I think we should be trying to get more set pieces. Because we're good at scoring them when we have the opportunities. We haven't had very many corners, for example, this season compared to other teams in League One. We specifically played for set pieces against Chelsea, and we gave them a bit of a nightmare for 45 minutes, didn't we? By just keeping the pressure on them, keeping them in their box. So, yeah, I wouldn't say that we're doing anything wrong at set pieces. I would like us to have more of them because we're a threat.
Yeah, we're second lowest for corners in the division. There's only Blackpool have had fewer per 90 minutes, 2.84, and we are the highest against 6.25. Only Bradford at 5.5 are below us. So I do think it's difficult at the minute to look at some stats when you're only 10 games in, because again, it's that sample size. And when you take games against Northampton and Bolton, where we were hanging on a little bit toward in the second half of those games, Burton, where it was a little bit like in the second half as well. It's easy to look at. I just think a little bit more control in possession, maybe at 1-0, we might need to improve on. I mean, we're happy to sit back, but when we're scoring an early goal, we haven't surrendered an awful lot of leads, but I think from a fan's point of view, it would be nice to be going and getting a second. And already we've proven, when we're drawing, we have more possession than when we're winning games. I think it would be nice just to have a little bit more possession whilst winning games, but at the same time, we're sixth in the table at the minute. So who am I to say where we need to improve? Because at the minute we're doing well. Where are we excelling? I'm going to go on a slightly different tact: recruitment. I think over the course of the summer we have excelled. On the podcast, we've never been critical of recruitment. I'm looking back now at Mark Kennedy era, the 2 summers really under Mark Kennedy, and I think maybe recruitment at that time wasn't as good as it is now, and maybe that's because we missed out. Maybe the market was a little bit different. We've certainly switched tack in terms of the types of age that we go for as well, and I think we've got a more rounded squad. I just think at the moment we've got something right, but recruitment is only any good with hindsight. And we talk about that winter window where, we brought John Marquis and it changed everything. Yeah, we brought Liam Cullen in, who plays for Wales, Morgan Whittaker, who was wanted by Lazio, Brooke Norton-Cuffy, who's wanted by Juventus. That was a really big kind of recruitment. It's a winter of recruitment. So, yeah, I think that's where we're excelling at the minute, personally.
Good point. Yeah, good point. Can't disagree with that. On the pitch, one other little thing I think is worth touching on. This is something that me and Charlie discussed briefly on midweek in relation to Peterborough, because they're the opposite of this. So you'll look at possession stats, we're low. You look at kind of successful passes, we're low. But about half of our successful passes are in the opposition half, whereas Peterborough, for example, have a lot more successful passes, but the percentage of their successful passes that are in the opposition half is really low, like 25 to 30%. I think against us, we almost had as many successful passes in the opposition half as each other, despite having something like 30% possession overall. So what does that mean? Efficient, I think. We're probably efficient, aren't we? And I think that's obviously where we're excelling. We're making the most, albeit against Exeter we didn't, but generally speaking, making the most from the opportunities that we have. We're good. We're a good football team. We're a very, very good football team, and it's nice to watch.
Let me also say second in terms of fouls conceded, but in the bottom 4 in terms of number of times fouled. So we need to just foul a little bit smarter. But then given the Plymouth game, and I think the Mansfield game as well, where the referees were a little bit card happy, it just skews.
Yeah, well, bookings go into that as well, because it was 3 or 4 games ago, we're still top of the league for bookings, but we were miles ahead of everyone else. But in the last couple of games, we've only picked up 1 booking, I think. Yeah. So again, it's early in the season to read too much into these numbers, because they get skewed by 1 or 2 freak games, don't they?
We've now had 29. Reading have had 29. Bradford 27. Rotherham 26. Wickham, Huddersfield, and Plymouth all on 24. And we were about 8 or 9 clear.
Yeah, we had 24, 25 when we were top. So we've only picked up 4 or 5 in the times that other teams have picked up something like 10. So I think that'll even itself out as the season ticks by.
Very soon we're going to get some quick fire questions, but Charlie will give us a nod in the private chat when they're coming on, but we'll try and get through these a little bit quicker. Which players in our squad do you think have the potential to play higher than League One? Well, even Varfolomiev, absolutely, certainly.
Yeah, George Wickens.
Yeah, Fred.
Yeah, because the key word here is potential, isn't it? So it's this by its nature has to be younger players. This isn't saying that if we got promoted that the more established players aren't going to be part of us if we are to go there. But in terms of who can we see to have a sustained career at a level higher than League One, yeah, I think Fred could. I think if he has a breakout season like he looks like he's threatening to at the moment, he certainly could. Oscar Thorne has been bought for that reason, but we haven't seen enough to know whether he's got the skill set for it. But he certainly looks like he could be an asset for us.
Go on then, let's put it another way. If you had to pick one to put £100 on to play in the Championship at some point in their career, which one would you pick?
Ivan, because we've seen his running data.
I will therefore go George Wickens, because I think it's more likely that keepers move up than anything. And he's got a profile of a big keeper. I'm now told by Charlie we're going to be going on to quick fire questions. I think these are a little bit fun. I'm not sure if they are Lincoln City related or not. He's doing maybe 50-50, so we'll see. Let's roll with the quick fires.
So are we going to read one each?
Yeah, go on then. Okay. You start.
Which realistic ex-imp would you want to sign to improve the squad?
Oh, that's quick fire.
Can't think of any ex-imps now. Like your brain just forgets every single Lincoln City player that's ever been.
Morgan Rogers.
Well,
Obviously.
okay, then Brennan Johnson. Then, yeah, obviously.
I mean,
Harry Toffolo.
so if they've got to be Lincoln players that we've actually owned to improve the squad, I think it's a little bit different. Do you know what? I'll get shot down for this. Ethan Arahan.
He's a good player. It's weird because of how well we've done in his absence. I don't miss him, but when he was part of the club, he's the best player I've ever seen in Lincolnshire in that role.
Yeah,
he is. He's better than Liam Bridcut was, who held that role for me before. I think he was better than Liam Bridcut. So yeah.
What if? And I know meant to be quick fire. What if it's not the ex-imp now, but it's the ex-imp? Which ex-imp at their peak for Lincoln would you bring into this squad now?
At their peak for Lincoln.
At their peak for Lincoln. And I'm going to be, I would say, go on, you first. Go on.
I'm going to say Jovan. Because it's like, who would improve the squad right now? Yeah. Like, I think he slots it. I'm sorry, Rob Street. I've done a good job out there, and long term is going to play up top. Jovan plays in that right wing role and improves us right now, I think.
I'm going to say one of two. It's either peak Tyler Walker 2019-20, because everything he touched turned to goals, but I'm going to go with peak Michael Boswick.
Oh, yes.
I'm having peak Michael Boswick coming in, back stick, smashing people through like a dumper truck driving through walls. That was quick fire. Next one. Who is your current favourite Imps player in the squad, Chris?
Oh, God. It's like trying to pick your favourite child. So, I imagine that's how it feels. George Wickens, Keepers Union.
I was hoping you were going to take longer to answer that. I
mean, it was a cop-out, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a cop-out. I'm going to say Adam Jackson. I just really like Adam as a person. I like his longevity. I think he's probably my favourite player. There's a lot that come really close. Eric Ring, I met Eric, and he was a lovely, lovely guy. Really like Eric, but I'm going to say Adam Jackson. Charlie.
What has been your favourite laugh out loud moment in the games we've played so far this season?
Was it this season where the sponsor fell over? Going off the field at half time. I'm sure there was a sponsor fell over. I know it was while Emily was doing the podcast. So it may have been at the very end of last season. It may have been this season, but that was my laugh out loud moment, was the sponsor falling over. Failing that, putting 3 past Peterborough was pretty.
That was going to be mine. That, and it got to the point against, was it Mansfield, where the referee just completely lost it?
Yeah.
And I seem to remember like genuinely laughing out loud. It was one of the moments where everyone was irate, and I'd been irate as well. And it got to the point, it was so bad it was funny. That's kind of how, I can't remember which specific decision it was, but it was one of them. It was definitely that match. I was just sat there kind of giggling. Like, if you can't cry, if you can't laugh, you'll cry, won't you? So you might as well laugh.
Who is your least favourite Lincoln City manager ever, and why?
Ever. Chris? Well, I don't know. Because the difficult way of looking at this is because of like since you've been following it closely, because when you're a child, there's things that happened. So, for example, Alan Buckley is probably going to be up there for a lot of people, I would say. He was at the club when the club went into administration. There's a few players in there that were debatable and questionable. His son, of course, through association, was not particularly well liked character, was he, after his misdemeanors? But I didn't really follow the football club. I have no idea like what was actually happening. I followed the club. I didn't really understand what was happening. I was only a kid. This is going to seem a bit harsh, but I'm going to say Mark Kennedy, like in hindsight. And the reason for that is partly recency. like Michael Appleton was brilliant manager, never really gel with the fans, but he doesn't ever. But at least he had something else. He had a real ability with it on the pitch. We had some success to celebrate, albeit behind closed doors. Like Mark Kennedy, we're kind of back to him at the time, but in hindsight, just seemed such an ill fit for the club. Like ever since the Cowleys have been at the club, you can see we've been moving in one direction. Really, the general trend has been development. And it didn't feel like we were developing as a football club when Mark Kennedy was the manager. Again, hindsight's a wonderful thing. Maybe it's recency a little bit, but he's probably the one. I remember us doing a podcast, a live pod, the day he got sacked. And it was a surprise at the time because it came out the blue. And I remember you asked me, are you surprised? Your instinct. And I said, no. And you agreed with me. And that probably says it all.
I'm not going to go Mark Kennedy, which will surprise a lot of people because despite the fact I didn't like the man, he did still guide us to 11th in League One. And I've seen some much worse performances than that. Almost every manager prior to Danny Cowley, after Keith Alexander or after John Schofield. My least favourite is Steve Tilson because I just think he was a cock. He was never interested in managing here. And what came out afterwards about the squad and telling people they were done. And I just don't like the man. No time for him whatsoever. Took us into the National League next. How much training would you each need to do to beat Jack Mulhall's Chicago Marathon time of 3 hours and 17 minutes? Has that question come from Jack, I wonder? There's a shake of the head. Well, considering that I did a marathon, because I did a marathon as well earlier in the year, and I ran it in just under 5 hours. 3 hours 17 is unbelievable. The only way I would ever beat Jack's time in the Chicago Marathon is if I was on a bike.
To cheat, yeah.
I could only cheat. I could never dream of that.
No, same. And I have no intention in doing that at all. More than happy to challenge myself, but not through long distance, things like that. That just sounds like hell. Credit Roach Stew, amazing, Jack, but no, not even going to entertain an answer because I'm not prepared to put anywhere near the training required to even finish it, let alone get near that time.
I want a WhatsApp from Peter Summers, who has put that question in, I've just been told. So I want a WhatsApp from him to say how much training would he need to beat my Scunthorpe half marathon time of 2 hours and 5 seconds. So, Charlie, roll the next one. Any more quick fires? Last one. You're in charge of booking acts for a one-day festival at Sincil Bank. Who are you booking? Are we going to say five acts each?
Okay.
From mid-afternoon.
Can this be people can they still be like not together anymore, but you can get them back together for one gig?
Well, I think we've got to book the acts, so they've got to be acts.
Oh yeah, fair point.
Okay. We'll do lunchtime, 2 afternoon, 2 evening slots. Yeah.
Oh, God, you could be in charge of organisation. I'll just pick 5 bands.
Right. So lunchtime slot. Chris. Well, I'll do lunchtime slot.
You go lunchtime slot.
And this will only appeal to a very select group of people. I am going to pick the League of Mental-Men, who were a local Lincoln band fronted by Mark Rastall, my good mate Tim Hall on drums, and there was they were a good band. They just did punk covers. They wrote some of their own punk covers though, so they did like Atomic Kitten's Whole Again. And stuff like that. What was the Katie? Is it Kate McDonald? The one that I like. This is the singing of songs, and this is the life. You know the one I mean. Amy McDonald. So they'd be brilliant at lunchtime just to get people out of their tents and down to the stage. So I'm having the League of Mental-Men for the fun factor.
You're thinking about this so much more than I am. I'm just thinking, who are the bands I really want to see? Because there's 2 bands on my bucket list that I've never seen yet, and they're 2 of my favorite bands. They have been for many, many years. And they're probably like my gateway into the type of music that I enjoy. So Linkin Park, I like how they've been reformed. Would obviously love to see Chester there. That's impossible. If we're booking them now, more than happy with them in their current guise. I cried a little bit, got a bit emotional when that kind of YouTube stream kicked on. I happened to be at home and the YouTube stream just started when they reformed and no one knew what it was. It got like goosebumps everywhere because it was just like, something a little bit more than you expect it to be. Them and Iron Maiden were probably because they were my gateway into metal.
Have you done headliners first?
Yeah, fuck it. I don't know what Oldham are doing. Obviously, Ferocious Dog, because they're going to end next season, next year. So can we make this their last ever gig? That'd be great fun. Their farewell. That's 3. You can pick another one now.
So my 2 afternoon slots, definitely Millie Manders and the Shut Up, just because they're great fun and I love seeing them. It would be a shame to put them on in the afternoon, but on in the afternoon, I would put them. And then I think to round off the afternoon, I'd have the Barstool Preachers. And I know that this is recency bias, 100%, but I've gone with a local band to start with, then 2 kind of middling bands that I would want the fans of the headliners to see and go, oh, I like them, and get them more exposure. So Millie Manders and the Barstool Preachers.
I know who I want to open.
Who?
Semantics.
Oh, yes.
He was brilliant. He'd be great fun.
Brilliant. Is he
down for anyone that's listening? There's not a lot of point in thinking, oh, who's that guy that I haven't heard of? Let's listen to his music. There's no point listening to it at all. You've got to see him live for it to make any sense at all.
Okay, so you've still got 2 to pick, and I've got 2 my 2 headliners.
I've picked 4 so far.
4, so you can pick. So in the slot before the headliner, I would have to pick Rancid, one of my favourite punk bands of all time, and I've only seen them in small festivals, and I would love to see them on a main stage. I think they'd be outstanding.
This is a bit of a silly one, but one of the most enjoyable gigs I went to last year was the Longest Johns at the Drill Hall. They just sang sea shanties all evening, and it was absolutely brilliant. So I want to have them because they'll make me laugh.
And my headliners, do you know what? Only because if I'm doing the booking, right, I'm assuming I get a ticket. And if I get a ticket and I'm doing the booking, I'm assuming that I can have a ticket in any part of the stadium I want. And I don't have to wait with the rabble for 6 hours for the band to come on. I'm going to be in an area. I can even be side of the stage watching, so I don't have to get soaked in piss. So I'm actually going to pick. Actually, no. Can I pick 2? I'm going to pick 2.
I think pick 2. You make the rules, so yes.
I'm booking. So I'm going to have Pulp as the support because I just love Pulp and I'd love to see him live again. And then it's going to be Oasis, and that's. I don't jump on the bandwagon. I don't jump on this whole, everyone getting in their Adidas and their bucket hats and dancing like it's 1996 when they were 4 when it was out and all that sort of stuff. I don't give a shit about all of that. I just think that they're a band that every single song that comes on is going to be an anthem. Whether you like what they do or not, whether they are Beatles karaoke or not. So I would book Oasis, and I don't have to. If I need a wee, I can walk off to the side of the stage to a nice portaloo and come back. If I can watch Oasis, but I can watch them like royalty.
Good. So just to confirm, Semantics opening for me, followed by the Longest Johns, followed by probably Ferocious Dog, then Linkin Park, then Iron Maiden.
And I've got League of Gentlemen warming up at the beginning. Sure, Chris has a good singing voice. Yeah, you only ever hear half a song from him, though. Ask us about that sometime. So I'll have the League of Gentlemen opening. I'll then have Millie Manders and the Shut Up and the Barstool Preachers in the afternoon. Rancid as the bonus surprise act just before a nice Britpop return of Pulp and Oasis. Any more? I think that's it. That's the last one. That's the questions. We are done. And dusted. So thank you everybody for listening. We have overrun. It was expected. Thank you very much to Charlie Beeston, and we'll just get him to say hello.
Oh God, I wasn't expecting that evening.
There we go. That was great. So that was Charlie. It was nice to hear him on the show, wasn't it?
That's so harsh.
So thank you, Charlie, for everything you've done. Thank you everybody for watching. Chris, thank you for indulging on the show. Thank you to everybody who has messaged, etc., about that. Very, very kind. Thank you for that. So that was it. Lots of questions, lots of answers, no preparation. The time has flown by. We will be back in midweek where we're going to be looking ahead to the Stevenage game. Don't know what else we'll have to talk about, but I don't think there's any more questions to answer because tonight we have answered them all. Up the Imps.
Up the Imps.
Yeah.